Okay, so let's have a few words about the planet Earth. To to shed some light on the the current ecosystemic situation that is happening on this planet, and in which humanity take an important role, which it therefore doesn't seem to realize. And to be honest, it is to be said that it is not the nicest role that we take, that we play in this situation. So, when it comes to the Earth, everything that we experience here on this planet is just part of let's say some micro dynamism on the planet's skins. When it comes to the Earth, the mountains are just skins imperfections, or not imperfections, but just skins little variations. And all the life on Earth is just like us. It's some microorganism population that runs everywhere on its skins. So all the life on the planet is like all the microorganism we have on our skins. And this life, this micro skin life this planet has, which is the life on Earth, it follows certain dynamics. It has its own dynamics, and the dynamic interact with the dynamic of the planet, which has a bit, let's say, different time scales probably. But this whole thing that we could call the global ecosystem, or the skin ecosystem, micro ecosystem on the planet's skin, has its own dynamic and its own forces, and just like the bacterial population in your guts has its own dynamic, so the whole life on Earth is just the same. It's just different scales, but like all the life we have in your guts, all the microintestinal ecosystem, if you change the scale and the planet Earth is a living being, this is first to be realized, that this planet is a living being. From where we look at it, it might seem just like some ground, but it is actually a living being. Just like for the bacteria in our guts, we might be just some kind of environment, but we are actually a living being. So this planet has its own consciousness, we could say, but it is so different than ours that we even fail to call it a living organism. But this is just a mistake that comes out of a very narrow mind, a very narrow perspective. So this planet is a living being, and the life on his skin has been going harmoniously, and every organism that takes part in this ecosystem work in balance with everything else. And this is kind of it's the harmony of life. We call it also the ecosystemic balance and the ecosystemic dynamism. And this is all balanced. It's very much like it's very much like, let's say, in a forest. Some organism they take some actions, some other they take some other action, but all together they work like one organism, just one team, one thing. And on this entire planet it's the same. This whole life work as one thing, and there is some harmony. It works harmoniously, except for one species, which you obviously know. It's the human. It's Homo sapiens. So in this harmony of this ecosystem, the humans they act, and what they do and how they behave and every action they take is not aligned with this harmony. And after some time, and because we are very numerous and we are also a very powerful species, we have managed to break the balance in this ecosystem. And as the balance is broken, actually the entire ecosystem is going to break down, it's going to collapse. Because we broke the balance, the natural balance of this ecosystem. So just like you have some microorganisms on your skins, and some which we can call pathogen, they start acting in a disharmonious way, and they start killing all the rest of organism, or they start irritating your skin. This we call a disease. And what is going on with humanity is we really, when it comes to the earth, we are really much like a skin disease. We are killing all the rest of the life on the skin. We are irritating the skin. We are breaking all the balance of the minerals on the skin. So we very behave much like a skin disease when it comes to the planet. But what is to now we are going to go into a bit more we are going to go to another level. The thing is, what is the disease is not the human itself, it's the human ego. The ego is this thing inside us that cut us away from the ability to sense and to feel the natural dynamics that are going on around us. Just like any other animal feel it, and they act through it. And at the end, this end up that every animal and every plant acts like a part of a whole, and the harmony is maintained like this. But because of the ego, we cannot sense this anymore, and we start acting like we are not part of this organism, this ecosystem anymore. This is exactly what happened in the cancer cell. A cancer cell is just a cell that for some reason starts ignoring all the signal the environment sent, the organism sent to it. So it's basically a cell that forgets that it is part of an organism and start doing its own stuff. And what is the own stuff of a cell? It's duplication. So it duplicates, it proliferates, and this it's disharmonious proliferation of cell, we call it a cancer tumor. So it's very much, the human ego is very much like this. It it takes us to a point where we ignore completely all the stimulus the global ecosystem is sending to us, and we don't sense it anymore. So we start acting like doing our own stuff. And what does a human being do when he does its own stuff? I don't know. It works for a living. It takes resources. It reproduce it without any consideration for the global ecosystem. Because we don't sense this anymore. So the problem is not the human, it's the human ego. So the disease this planet has is the human ego. And it's not going to kill the planet, but it's just a skin disease. So this has started to happen a few thousand years ago. And it's like when you're sick, there is a period of a few days when you are sick before your immune system responds to it. And once your immune system responds to it, you start having a fever, and this kills the disease. It is exactly what is happening right now. For 3,000 years or a bit more, humans starting growing. And now we reach a point where the ego, the human ego, starts to really have a very strong impact on the Earth's skin. And now the immune system of the planet, because this planet is a living being, turns on. The planet starts having a fever. So this will manifest by, of course, climate change, changes of the ecosystemic dynamics, and also a change in the vibratory rate. So it even plays a role at a very quantic level. Let's have a few words on this. It is to be observed that all the prediction the scientist does, because the scientists for decades they've been taking data and making predictions of how the situation on Earth when it comes to ecosystemics and climate is going to change. So they make models like this to predict how it's going to change. And it happens that all the prediction they do, so they do different predictions from the better to the worse, different models like this, and it ends up that the situation is always much worse than the worst they predict. So they collect data, they make models, and they are always wrong. It's always much worse than what they expect to happen. This is for a simple reason. It's because in all the data they collect, they don't collect the whole of what's going on. They don't measure. They basically forget some variables, things that are ignored by science, by modern science nowadays, and vibratory rate is one of them. So the thing is, the vibratory rate is changing, and the vibratory rate is one. It's a quantic property of energy. Energy, everything is energy. This energy vibrates at different frequencies, and one of these frequencies is what we call the vibratory rate. And this, the vibratory rate of the planet Earth, has changed. It has changed drastically. It has increased a lot. And this really is what we can refer to as an immune system response. It really is a fever. A fever is when the system, your organism, increase the speed of the vibration of its molecules. So the heat of your body. increase, and this is what we call the fever, and this kills the disease. So now the vibratory rate of the planet increases, and this is going to kill the disease, which is the human ego. This might sound, and it also produces climate change to a speed that we that is much faster than everything we measure and we predict. We predict, not we measure, but everything we predict, and it is going to change the ecosystem dynamic to such an extent that are very much also much faster than everything we predict. So it is also going to change the human consciousness. The ego is very much like inertia into your system. It's an inertia into your system. It's the dead thing inside your living organism. It's the inertia. This is possible when vibratory rate is low. This thing is there, and you start acting through it because it affects your own system. It's like humanity is sick. It has ego, and the vibratory rate is going to the vibratory rate of the planet Earth has changed to a point where this inertia is going to be broken. So it's like, let's say, ego is something very cold inside you, and now the planet Earth has turned the thermostat on high heat, and this is going to melt your ego. It is going to break this inertia into your system. It is going to break the inertia at quantic level inside you. This is to be understood. This is previous to behavior, previous to psychology, previous to perceptions. It is previous to every outer dynamic you can measure. It is fundamental, which means it is the basis. If there is a switch at quantic level by a cascade reaction, it is going to change reality at every level. And it is going to kill human ego. Once human ego is killed or is vanished, the situation of this planet will change drastically because we will start sensing and living in a more ecosystemic consciousness. So we will be again in a conscious state of being part of a global ecosystem. Just like if you can heal a cancer cell and you start understanding that again that it's part of an organism and it stops spreading. It just readjusts its behavior. And this is what's going to happen. So humanity is going to, by losing its ego, it's going to realign all its dynamic to the ecosystem dynamics. So it's even a deeper change than a change of paradigm. It is going to be, of course, a civilization drop down. It is going to be a huge climate change, a life shift on this planet. And whether you believe in these things or not, it is happening. And the scientists have been saying this for almost 50 years. I'm just now bringing this new information that the vibratory rate is changing as well. This is the immune, it's like the immune system of the planet which is reacting. And it's gonna kill the disease. The disease is not human being, it's human ego. So this means the life on this planet is not going to disappear. The humans of this planet are not going to disappear. But the human ego is going to disappear.